Welcome into College Football Now, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Hope you're having a great holiday season. Thanks for joining us. On today's show, we will get you set for the Peach Bowl matchup between the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Georgia Bulldogs in the college football playoff semifinals in the Peach Bowl. What a game that we have on our hands here. The Georgia Bulldogs come in undefeated. The defending national champions trying to get it done for the second year in a row and playing in a stadium they're very familiar with in Atlanta. Not terribly far from their campus in Athens. Also the same site that they won the SEC championship just a few weeks ago, and also defeated Oregon to begin the season. A home field advantage for Georgia at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Meanwhile, for the Ohio State Buckeyes, it's been a long time since they last played a football game. The last time we saw them on the football field, they lost to Michigan in the game. But since then, they've had a lot of time to reflect and get themselves ready for this college football playoff run. So we'll tell you everything you need to know about this game in just a moment. Before we do, though, who do you got in the college football playoff semifinal between the Buckeyes and the Dogs? You're rolling with Ohio State, type OSU. If you're rolling with Georgia, type UGA. Let us know in the comment section below who you think gets it done. Ohio State or Georgia. OSU for Ohio State, UGA for Georgia. The odds show Georgia is about a 7-point favorite, and the over-under at 62.5. Expected to be a high-scoring affair between these two teams. Ohio State, we'll show you some numbers here in just a second, with an edge offensively, it would seem. Meanwhile, Georgia with the nation's best defense. Not quite as good as last year's defense, but still a terrific unit nonetheless here. We'll see what gives between high-powered offense and great defense here in this semifinal game. Georgia's path to the playoff, well, it's been one of domination for the most part this year. We mentioned they opened up the year with a win against Georgia, followed that up with a shutout against Samford. They opened up SEC play with a big-time win over South Carolina. And then Kent State kind of hung around with them. Georgia then got the win, though, 39-22. Missouri on the road, that was a trap game of sorts for the Bulldogs as they were able to win that game by 4, and Mizzou probably kept it closer than it should have been. Meanwhile, you look at the other games on the schedule for the Dogs. They dominated against Auburn. They shut out Vandy, their second shutout of the year. Florida, their arch rival in the great rivalry game in Jacksonville between these two teams. They dominated that game in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, 42-20. Tennessee, that was a matchup that was dubbed the game of the century with number 1 and number 2 facing off, and Georgia won pretty handily, 27-13, and then took care of business against Mississippi State, 45-19. They finished off the year with a win against Kentucky, 16-6, where the defense really came through, defeated their rivals, the Georgia Tech squad, the Yellow Jackets, 37-14, and then ended the regular season with a win in the SEC title game against LSU, 50-30. Meanwhile, for Ohio State this year, they opened up against Notre Dame, and Notre Dame was an interesting test of sorts for the Buckeyes, but they went on to win that game 21-10. Wins over Arkansas State and Toledo, where Ohio State said, "Holy Toledo," with 77 points. And then a win against Wisconsin as well, 52-21 to open up Big Ten play. A win against Rutgers, also dominated against Michigan State and Iowa. Penn State, a road test. They took care of business by double digits there. Northwestern, that game was a little wonky of sorts as they were able to win that one 21-7. It wasn't CJ Stroud's best day, but then they followed that up with a terrific performance against Indiana, winning that game 56-14, a win against Maryland 43-30. And then the one loss, the one blemish on Ohio State's record came in the final game of the regular season against Michigan, where the Buckeyes were favored in that game at home and ended up getting blown out by double digits in that game. How will they respond to the blowout loss? That remains to be seen. Today's show is brought to you by Fetch. Fetch is a super easy-to-use and free app that lets you earn rewards on literally everything you buy. Scan any physical receipt or e-receipt, and it will help you earn points on your purchases. And the process only takes seconds. You don't have to worry about where the receipt is from or what's on it, so let me show you how simple it is. All you have to do is open up the Fetch app, press the orange camera button, and snap a photo of your receipt. Then hit submit, and you'll see the confetti pop up showing you've earned more reward points. It's a simple process. You can also click the e-receipt function to get rewarded for your Amazon purchases or other online shopping by syncing your email account. You can then redeem those points for gift cards for Amazon, Starbucks, or hundreds of retailers and restaurants available. Fetch is available on iPhone and Android. Use our link, chatsports.com/Fetch. Enter the promo code CHAT and sign up for 5,000 points when you scan your first receipt. That's the equivalent of a free $5 gift card to get started. It's a free app, and the 5,000 bonus points is only for a limited time. So get started now. Chatsports.com/Fetch. Promo code CHAT. The link is also in the comments and the description of today's video. All right, let's take a look at the injury front, beginning with Ohio State. And notable, of course, TreVeyon Henderson is out with a foot injury. Also, Jaxon Smith. I know Ohio State fans were hoping to have him back for the playoffs, but that hamstring injury, we haven't seen him a whole lot this year. He is instead going to get ready for the NFL draft and will not play in the playoffs. He is done as a Buckeye. Meanwhile, for the Georgia Bulldogs, the injury list is a little bit longer for them, as Nolan Smith, he is out, as is Dan Jaxon, CJ Washington, just to name a few there. And what you may notice, too, is some of the skill position guys also banged up for Georgia there. The battle of the quarterbacks, CJ Stroud and Stetson Bennett. Both these guys were Heisman finalists, as Stroud threw for 37 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Stetson Bennett with 16 touchdowns and 6 picks. And what you can't argue about Stetson Bennett, although the numbers aren't flashy, as you can see with, not a whole lot of touchdown passes, what you can say about Stetson Bennett is he has been there and done that. He has an SEC title, a national title on his plate. He's been able to make big plays in some of these big-time moments. CJ Stroud, although he looks the part when it comes to the NFL and his future, and he'll be a top 10 pick in this April's NFL draft, what you have to wonder is, does CJ Stroud have that it factor to get it done in crunch time? We didn't see that in the game against Michigan. We'll see if he can step up and answer the call here in this matchup. Who plays a better game? Not asking you who the better quarterback is, but who plays the better game between these two? Is it Stetson Bennett? Is it CJ Stroud? If it's Stetson Bennett, type SB for Stetson Bennett. If it's CJ Stroud, type CJ for CJ Stroud in the comments section below. All right, let's go by the numbers on this game. We mentioned Ohio State with an 11-1 record, Georgia at 13-0, and Ohio State comes in with a number 2 scoring offense in the country, 44.5 points per game. Georgia at 39.7, not 4 off. Scoring defense, Ohio State 13th in the land. Georgia with that dominant defense, number 2 in scoring defense. Then third down rates, Georgia at 52.74% offensively, Ohio State at 46.1%. But here is a big difference that I'm very curious of how this ultimately, if it has any effect on this game whatsoever. Turnover margin. Georgia is ranked 74th in the country, -1 at turnover margin. Meanwhile, Ohio State all the way at +7, tied for 23rd. Can Ohio State create enough turnovers to be the difference in this ballgame? That'll be something to watch there. Players to watch in this matchup for Ohio State. Marvin Harrison Jr. certainly making his dad proud, and a dynamic receiver with a very bright future, and you have to think he'll be playing on Sundays very, very soon. Also, look out for the hog mollies on the offensive line. Paris Johnson Jr. And Luke, these guys really are physical at the line of scrimmage. How are they going to handle that tough Georgia defense? If Ohio State's going to have a shot in this game, they have to win at the line of scrimmage. Be interesting to see what those guys do. Meanwhile, for the Dogs, obviously you got to talk about Brock Bowsers. Brock Bowsers, the best tight end in college football. He, I think, is going to be a star in the National Football League. He is going to be something special, and has been a problem for teams to deal with for the last couple of seasons now on the defensive side of the ball. Kenny McIntosh, a very good runner. Ladd, also a good receiver. Broderick Jones and Warren McClendon on the offensive line, two very good players that were all SEC performers this past year. Meanwhile, for Ohio State, players to watch on defense, Zach Harrison on the edge, Ronnie Hickman. Hickman did not play great against Michigan, but had a good season overall. Mike Hall as well on the defensive line. Just a couple names that stand out there for the Buckeyes on that front. Meanwhile, let's shift gears now, talk defense for Georgia. Jalen Carter. Everybody knows about Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter, of course, is going to be one of the top picks in this April's NFL draft. A spectacular player and just a behemoth that any NFL team is going to be lucky to have. Keely Ringo at the cornerback spot, a terrific shutdown corner, as is Chris Smith. And then don't forget about the D tackles as well. Stackhouse and Starks, very good football players. We're going to see a lot of talent on the field for both teams coming up in this matchup here between Georgia and Ohio State. Who will be the MVP of the Peach Bowl? Is it going to be one of the players we mentioned, or is it going to be somebody else out there? Let us know in the comment section below who you think the MVP will be for this matchup. Make sure to sub to the channel as we cover the college football playoff as well as the latest in the transfer portal, recruiting, and everything in between. This is the place to be. If you love college football, if you want more college football news and rumors, go ahead and subscribe now. YouTube.com/@chatsports. Hit that sub button today. Keys to the game for Ohio State. Turn it into a shootout. I think if you're Ohio State, you want to go fast-paced, score as many points as possible, and not have to worry about the defenses at all. I think that's what you want. You want to turn this into a shootout. I think CJ Stroud's got to play the game of his life. I think he has to play a perfect game for Ohio State to win this game. We can't see what we saw from CJ Stroud against Michigan, against Notre Dame. He is going to have everything put together to win this football game and then create 3 and outs on defense. To me, if you can shorten up those drives, we talked earlier how well Georgia is at converting on third down, create those 3 and outs, that'll go a long way to building momentum for Ohio State. Meanwhile, for Georgia, got to run the football. Got to do what you can to establish the run, win at the line of scrimmage, and to wear out the clock, win that time of possession there. Pressure on C.J. Stroud. Get him, rattle him up a bit. See what you can do there. We've seen him struggle at times when he has been under pressure throughout the year. And then let Brock Bowsers dominate. When you look at this matchup, I don't see anybody on that Ohio State side that's going to be able to handle what Brock Bowsers brings to the table here. To me, that's a mismatch. With that being said, I like Georgia in this game. I like them big. I'm going with the Dogs to get the job done. 38-21. Predict the score in the comments section. Tell me how you think this game is going to play out, and we'll see you next time. Enjoy bowl season here on Chat Sports.